Hello everyone. Thank you for your interest in Inkfinder 2, Mark of the Harrow. My name is Brian. I wrote this little book. This is a book that uses the Pathfinder Harrow deck to create 54 new tattoos for Pathfinder Second Edition. But there's also a section called the Deck of Endless Tattoos where you can use a Harrow deck with your GM to create your own custom Harrow reading tattoo. And so the book gives a couple of examples of building these reading tattoos, but I wanted to walk you through one on video to give you an idea of how it works step by step, sort of as you take down notes and work with it. So let's head down to the relevant section, Deck of Endless Tattoos. Here we go. So you should be able to see this in your PDF if you purchased the book. If you're just looking for a preview, welcome. I'm very glad you're here. Hope to persuade you that this is a title worthy of adding to your library. So this is a section called Deck of Endless Tattoos, where the idea is that your player character has a Harrow reading performed that then gets engraved on their skin in the form of a magical tattoo that is unique to them, right? So the idea is that you and your GM work together to build a custom magical tattoo based on the Harrow reading. So there's lots of ways to do a Harrow reading. At the time of this recording, we are eagerly awaiting the Stolen Fate Adventure Path Player's Guide to give us some updates to harrowing. But the basic idea is that harrowing tells you about your character's past, present, and future. And so it's actually really useful to use a Harrow deck to help craft your PC. If you're looking for ideas for a PC, for an NPC, for an adventure, you can draw one card to represent the past, one card to represent the present, and one card to represent the future. So let me show you an example of how this might work. Rather than trying to point a camera at a physical Harrow deck, I'm just going to use a little bit of Python code that I've worked up that automatically draws a Harrow card for me. I'm not allowed to give this to you because it uses Paizo's trade dress here from the PDF that I purchased. But you get the idea of how it works. You can use this, you can use a physical deck, you can roll dice to pick the alignment in the suit, have some way of getting these cards randomly selected. So you might draw your first card to be the Liar. This is a chaotic evil card related to charisma. And so this is in your past, somebody lied to your character. Maybe it was a romantic interest. They obviously got something out of the lie. Maybe they had some sort of aberrant or fiendish origin to them, but you have suffered because of a lie that someone told you. Or maybe you told a lie that resulted in someone else's life being ruined. Maybe you're trying to recover from that. The second card displays your present. So here we get the Idiot for the present. This is a neutral evil intelligence card. Intelligence is based on the suit, so that's the books here, or up here was charisma, that's based on the crown. The alignment is shown up in the grid here, so this is neutral evil because it's in the lower center spot. This was chaotic evil because it's in the lower right spot in the sort of standard alignment grid layout. So this is maybe you are caught in something foolish, or maybe a lack of information is leading you into a place that you should not be. Maybe there are creatures tormenting you for your mistakes, maybe literal goblins, maybe not. Or again, maybe you're the goblin and maybe your character is tormenting somebody and you need to stop that, or you need to figure out what's going on with this. And then the last card represents your future. So like here we've drawn the Teamster. This is a Constitution card, so it's got the shield. You might notice there's no alignment highlighted. It's because it's in the middle. So this is a neutral card. So this may indicate that your character's future is undetermined. Maybe there is some force driving them, or maybe there is some force they'll be able to unlock over the course of the adventure. And so by drawing 3 cards, I want you to be able to create your own magical tattoo ability. So I thought what we could do would be go through the rules step by step and create a magical tattoo here on the video. No preparation because I'll be drawing the cards randomly. So there's a section here called Making a Reading Tattoo that just gives you the overall idea here. You want to pay attention to the cards' alignments, their suits, and the order of the 3 cards. So let's start with the first card. So this traditionally represents your character's past. So let's draw our first card over here. And for our first card, we've got the Avalanche. So this is a lawful evil keys card. Keys represent dexterity because you've got to dodge out of the way of that avalanche. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. There we go. That's a bit better for the screen. Let's see. So what do we need to pay attention on the first card? Note the first card's alignment, particularly whether it's morally good, neutral, or evil. So I'm going to take a note that this is lawful evil. So lawful is along the left column, evil is along the bottom row. It is a lawful evil card. And what do we need to do next? This determines who makes a check when using your ability. So each of these reading tattoos is going to have an ability. It's going to have an activation that somebody can use. We'll see who that is in just a second. So this is an evil card. So we're going to go down here. For an evil card, the ability requires an enemy to attempt a saving throw against your DC. Okay, so this means that the enemy must attempt a saving throw against my DC. Okay, now what does that mean? Because anytime it says my DC, that could mean a few different things. So in this case, it's always a standard DC for your level or for the enemy's level. I think it makes more sense for it to be for your level in this case. So let's do that. DC equals standard DC for my level. So standard DCs are located over on page 503 of the core rulebook. So if you go on to Nethys, you can search for level-based DCs. And that table, like I said, is over on page 503 of the core rulebook. This is possibly the most important page in the core rulebook for a GM. I am not exaggerating. And so the idea is if you're a first level character, that's DC 15, that goes up to 16, 18, 19, etc. You notice it goes up by 1 or 2 each level, just depending on how things are progressing. So you always want to just check that table every time you level up and make a note of that. All right, that's the first level. So when I activate this tattoo, an enemy is going to have to make a saving throw against a standard DC for my level. Well, what kind of saving throw? Well, that's where we come to the second card. Next, draw or select the second card. All right, let's go back over here. So we go with the Avalanche. All right, let's get something good here. Actually, good doesn't matter here. It's the ability score that matters here. Oh, it is good. How about that? The Keep. Neutral good card. So this is our second card, the Keep. This is a neutral good card of hammers. Hammers represent strength. So you can see this is probably a nice, good place to hide from the unfortunate things going on down below here. Let's see what we're supposed to interpret here. Note the second card's suit. Okay, so this is no longer the alignment. Now we're looking at the suit. The suit here is the hammer, which indicates a strength score, right? So something about this ability is going to have something to do with strength. So let's go back over to our notes here. Based on the list below, choose a type of check that thematically matches the second card. So let's see, this needs to be a saving throw, so we're particularly going to look at saving throw types. If I come down to hammers, that's the suit related to strength, the skill check is athletics or the saving throw is fortitude. So if you go back up here to the first card, you'll note that some of these require a skill check. In the case of an evil card, you're expecting an enemy to attempt a saving throw. And so we need to go down to hammers. This is going to be a fortitude saving throw. So the enemy must attempt a fortitude save. So enemy must attempt a fortitude save. Again, it's against my class DC. So again, the first card is determining who is making the check. The second card is going to determine what kind of check they make. All right, anything else we need to note on the second card? I don't think so. Basically, there's options based on books for intelligence, crowns for charisma, hammers for strength, keys for dexterity, shields for constitution, and stars for wisdom. Most of these make intuitive sense. I think we generally associate books with learning. Crown starts with C, charisma starts with C, hammer is a sign of strength, shield is protecting you like your fortitude. I'm not really sure what keys have to do with dexterity, except I guess dexterity goes into thievery, which you use to pick a lock that was locked by a key. Little bit of a stretch, I feel like, but you know, we'll go with it. Stars, I guess, represents nature, kind of wisdom type thing, or maybe it's got like a religious significance, something like that. But the important thing is each of these is roughly tied to those abilities or something adjacent, right? So books can also be tied to a will save because there's no intelligence-based saving throw. Let's see what happens with the third card. Next, draw or select the third card. Okay, let's go over to our deck here. So we have the avalanche. So an avalanche is coming. There is a keep that can withstand it. What happens in our future here? Our future, third card, oh dear, is the uprising. It's a chaotic neutral strength card, right? This mob, look at that. They've taken the crown from the first card. Oh no, wait, we don't have crowns anymore. Oops, never mind. They've taken somebody's crown here, so that could be a good or bad thing depending on if you're the one taking the crown or the one who was wearing the crown. We don't know what happened to the head that the crown was on top of before. What we want to do now is note the third card's suit. Okay, so we want to note the suit here. This is hammers. So hammers represent strength. All right, what's going to happen with strength here? This is the step that is most vague, and intentionally so, because this is the outcome you and your GM need to agree upon to determine the ability's effect on an enemy or on an ally. So we're going to focus on the enemy part. If the ability affects an enemy, right? So anytime you're reading rules set like this, always just start with the piece that is relevant to you, right? So if this part about if it's an enemy, you read that. The part that says if it's an ally, just don't bother even reading that because it doesn't apply to you in this case. If the ability affects an enemy, it imposes a circumstance penalty on a type of skill check or saving throw associated with the suit, as in the list above. So I need to go back up to here and look at hammers. Well, first let's write down this part. So if it affects an enemy, so this is going to be on a fail, right? So for a saving throw, something should happen if it's a failure. For a skill check, something should happen if it's a success, right? Think about if it's the enemy rolling or you rolling. You want your enemies to fail saving throws. You want allies to succeed skill checks, right? So on a failure, the enemy takes a circumstance penalty to, let's look at our options here. What are our options? A type of skill check or saving throw associated with the suit, as in the list above. Okay, let's go back up to the list above. We're talking about hammers again, so it happens to be that we drew hammers and hammers, right? So that kind of matches thematically. But if this were a crown, we'd be going to the charisma list. We'd be going to the crowns list up here. The skill check is athletics, or the saving throw is fortitude. So they're either going to take a penalty to their athletics or to their fortitude. So let's put that down here. So athletics or fortitude. So at this point, I would sit down with my GM and I would talk about which makes more sense for a creature to fail a fortitude save and then they take a penalty to their athletics, or they fail a fortitude save and then they take a penalty to their fortitude save. Well, it kind of depends on my character, right? If I'm playing a spellcaster, I'm probably going to pick fortitude. So this would be good for a spellcaster or maybe a poisoner alchemist who wants to target the creature's fortitude, right? Because I want them to get that fortitude down for when I cast a spell that targets fortitude or when I try to poison them. And so if this ability is a single action, then maybe in a single turn, I can activate my tattoo, make them make a fortitude save. On a failure, they take a penalty on their fortitude saves, which is then good for my next two actions, cast a spell or try to poison them. That sounds cool. For athletics, maybe I'm a melee fighter, right? So this is good for a melee fighter or ranger or martial, I guess is a more generic term. Good for a melee martial who wants to avoid getting grappled, right? Because grappling is based on athletics. And so if I can bring down their athletics modifier, well, then I've got a little bit better chance of not getting grabbed on my next turn. Either one of those is a good option. It just depends on who my character is, how I want them to play, and what I'm envisioning them doing each of their turns. Now, I'm playing a wizard right now, Cedric Rhodes, the Abomination Vault's intern, eagerly studying under the tutelage of his supervisors in the party. So for him, I would probably pick the fortitude. I'm just going to cross this out here. That's still a great idea. But I'm just going to cross that out here. And so this is the outline of my tattoo's activation. So now what we need to do is finalize our details. Oh yeah, I should also say this effect lasts 1 round on a failed saving throw or 1 minute on a critical failure, right? So here's just separating out if it's a skill check by an ally or saving throw by an enemy. So this is going to be for 1 round on a failure, 1 minute on a crit failure. And that's basically making it on par with a spell, right? So spells tend to have, some spells will tend to do something for a round or a minute, depending on what the outcome of the saving throw is. Okay, when you and your GM have agreed on the general structure, Pete, I hope that's okay, this general structure that I'm writing for Cedric Rhodes here. Think about the final details. How many actions does activating this ability require? So I was thinking that if I'm building this for Cedric Rhodes and he wants to cast a spell, most of the spells are going to be 2 actions, so we're probably going to make this activation a single action, right? I think it makes sense for this to be a single action, so that in terms of my action economy, I can then cast a spell. You'll probably make all of these activations take 1 action, but you and your GM might come to some other conclusion, right? This might be a pre-buffing thing that you do that takes 2 actions or a minute or something like that. But generally, you know, the level of strength of these abilities, I think it makes sense for it to be a single action. Just to reinforce that this is a wizard doing this, and he's probably not going to be in melee, I think we'll make this an interact activation, so that he's not doing this up front in melee, right? It's going to maintain his position away from attacks of opportunity. All right, what other details do we need? What sort of traits does it need? I'm thinking interact, I think would be fine. What sort of range should it have? This is for a wizard. I think it's fine for that. I mean, here's the thing. Creatures already have a really good fortitude save. Fortitude tends to be high on monsters. So let's say this gets a range of 60 feet. And then we're just going to put this together. We're going to say, choose a creature within range. They must succeed at a fortitude save against a standard DC for your level, or take a, actually, excuse me, let's do this. They must attempt, it's better to put this in one sentence at a time. They must attempt a fortitude save against standard DC for your level. On a failure, they take a, let's see, did we specify the number? We should probably specify the number on here. I feel like -1 is fine if we don't give this a, frequency restriction. Impose a -1 circumstance penalty type of skill check or saving throw. Ability benefits an ally, a +1. Yeah, I'm editing my document here as we go. They take a -1 circumstance penalty to fortitude saves for 1 round, 1 minute on a critical failure. And actually saying for 1 round is a little bit ambiguous. You always want to say until the end of your next turn. Or maybe you want it to be the beginning of your next turn if your GM feels it's a little bit overpowered. Right? There's ways you can adjust this. If your GM feels that something is overpowered, you can make it more actions. You can reduce the range. You can take away the effect for a crit fail. You can just make it failure, and crit failure are the same. You can also make it until the end of their next turn instead of your next turn, so it's on average halfway through the round. You know, there's all sorts of ways you can adjust this. I've deliberately left it open-ended so that you and your GM can build something that fits your adventure and your table. And yeah, this is pretty cool that we get to pick an enemy and they got to make a fortitude save or take a penalty to fortitude saves. Of course, then again, if I keep hitting them with this, it's easier for them to fail the next time and maybe get a crit fail and then maybe it's turned on for a minute. So I kind of like this idea that my shrimpy wizard is going to keep spamming his tattoo activation, trying to bring that fortitude save down until he finally gets a critical failure out of the monster, and then he can unleash his 3-action spell that targets fortitude. I'm struggling to think of what such a spell of a spell that meets that description, but yeah, no, this is looking pretty cool. All right, why don't we do one more just to kind of go over the process once again, maybe get a little bit different results this time. Let's go to the first card, and we'll do this one a little bit faster because you've got an idea now from the first one. So first card, we're going to pay attention to the alignment. And again, this is all part of a Harrow reading, so this would mean that Cedric has a past that's determined by the avalanche, a present that's determined by the keep. I mean, that sounds like Abomination Vaults to me. And then the uprising of these you know, the spoiler things that are coming out of the Gauntlet. Yeah, no, that sounds really good, actually. All right, let's build another one. Let's build one for my Thaumaturge, Caprian Sovos, who is a human vampire. Let's see. First card, we want the alignment. So this is good aligned. And what that means is we need this to be... What does good mean? For a good card, the ability requires you to attempt a skill check against an enemy's DC. This is actually great because the Thaumaturge is already doing that when they exploit vulnerability. So you attempt a skill check against an enemy's DC. What DC is that going to be? Let's see. Standard DC for your level or the enemy's level. So again, we're already looking that up for exploit vulnerability because it keys off of the same DC against a standard DC for an enemy's level. Cool. Second card. What is in Caprian's present? Let's see what's going on with my Vampire Thaumaturge in the present. The desert. Well, he is in Geb. This is my Bloodlord's character. This is actually perfect. Let's see. So this, the desert. And for the desert, I believe we need the suit. Is that right? So for the second card, we want to note the card's suit. Okay. So let's see. This is going to be the type of skill that Caprian performs. So this is shields. So this is shields, which equals constitution, which is challenging, right? Because there are no constitution-based skills. So if you notice, when you go to the shields, the skill check is athletics. You say, wait a minute, athletics is based on strength, not constitution. Yeah, well, there are no skill checks based on constitution. So we had to put these in here. Okay, so he is attempting a skill check. So it has to be athletics, which is great because Caprian does not have athletics. He is not trained in athletics. So if Caprian wants to take this card, he's got to go for training in athletics, right? So this is the Harrow kind of determining his future, what he needs to do. If he really wants to take advantage of the magic that is accessible to him, he needs to take training in athletics. So he's going to attempt an athletics check against a standard DC for an enemy's level. Let's get that third card now. What is in his future for Bloodlords is the Inquisitor. Oh my. You know, obviously I'm playing in Bloodlords. I don't know all of the storyline, but maybe this is a celebrant Inquisitor, because I kind of get the sense they're the bad guys. I don't know yet. We just finished book 1, but I'm kind of getting the sense they're not really pleasant. What do we want to note about the Inquisitor? For the Inquisitor, we want to note, again, the card's suit. Okay, so this is a books card for intelligence. So you notice we got athletics for the second card. We need something intelligence-based for the last card. So let's see. If the ability benefits an ally, I need to add or yourself here. If the ability benefits an ally, the ability grants a +1 circumstance bonus on a type of skill check or saving throw, as in the list below. All right, so this is going to be the bonus. Well, let's copy paste that. Sorry, +1 circumstance bonus on ... So we need a type of skill check or saving throw from the list up here. So for, what was it again? This was books. Okay, books has a lot. This can be Arcana, Crafting, Occultism, or the saving throw is Will. Now, I suppose you could make the argument, well, can't I get a lore out of this? Because lores are intelligence-based, and your Thaumaturge is going to be making lore checks all the time, except esoteric lore is based on charisma. And so what I might do if I had drawn a Crowns card and I had a Thaumaturge, I might bug my GM to see if I can make this esoteric lore instead of one of these. Again, you know, you're allowed to play around with this, make it thematic. I mean, it's your table, you know, you do what you want with it. Let's see. We are about to go fight some... how do I want to say this? Some evil spellcasting creatures. I don't want to specify what kind. So I'm thinking Caprian is going to need a bonus to his will save. So let's say circumstance bonus on will saves. Okay, so again, let's turn this into an activation. Activate. Let's just make it a single action. It's an athletics check, so he is going to have to interact. I think this might be some kind of shove. And I think this is going to have to get up in personal. I think this is going to have to be choose a creature within your reach. So my little squishy thaumaturge vampire already died once is going to have to get up in melee for this, which thaumaturges prefer melee anyway. So choose a creature within your reach. Attempt an athletics check against a standard DC for their level. On a success, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to will saves against them for 1 round or 1 minute on a critical success. Now, how does this work? This is what I love about this system, and when I started playing around with this, I was really excited. How does this work that I make an athletics check against against them, you know, kind of a generic them, DC for them, and somehow that helps me with my will saves? Well, I think what that's doing is that is Caprian getting himself pumped up. It is getting himself confident that no matter what kind of evil spellcaster he comes against, he can summon the strength of his undead body that is still kicking, that is still moving. Maybe this is even something he does with his fangs. Who knows? Ooh, yes, I like this. Maybe this is actually something he does with his fangs. You don't need a free hand to do this if you have fangs, right? Because he does have fangs as a vampire. So maybe he's doing this with his fangs, and he is leeching out the life force of this evil spellcaster. Oh goodness, I like this. I like this a lot. I swear I did not plan this. These were all randomized, but I really, really like this for my thaumaturge, and I really like how these cards tell his story, right? Wow, this is really cool. I'm really impressed. I might actually go see if my GM will let me use this tattoo. That's really cool. Okay, so that's an idea of how you can create these tattoo abilities. There's other details about the actual tattoos themselves. They're always first level. They've got a fixed price. You can pick one up for free if you take the Harrow marked background. So I hope that's interesting. I hope that's cool, the way you can build your own tattoos with these readings. I would love for you to share what you come up with from this deck of endless tattoos. You can find me on Twitter at WBrianLane or on Mastodon at LionsBrain at dice.camp. Thank you so much for watching, and happy harrowing.